you are still holding out hope that Jasper Jacks is simply off on a breezy, carefree sailing adventure across the globe and will return next month with a glowing tan and a charming smile, I am here to tell you to prepare for a brutal heartbreak. We have all been watching the sudden, inexplicable arrival of this mysterious executive named Hudson, and if you ask me, the writing is already on the bloody wall. This is not just standard corporate maneuvering. This is a calculated move born from decades of toxic family bad blood. The reality of what is unfolding behind the closed doors of Jax's corporate empire is far more sinister than a simple, extended vacation. We are looking at a highly volatile situation that threatens to tear the entire Jax legacy apart, piece by bloody piece. You guys know exactly how this show operates. When a wealthy, powerful legacy character suddenly vanishes off screen on a supposed sailing trip, and a complete stranger walks into town handing out CEO titles to college-age daughters, it is never out of the goodness of their hearts. It implies that a deeply rooted psychological motive is at play, one that usually ends in absolute tragedy and shattered trust. Right now, we are looking at a highly dangerous stalemate. Jocelyn is standing directly on a landmine, completely blind to the fact that the man holding the detonator is standing right in front of her, smiling warmly. If you ask me, Hudson did not just stumble into Port Charles by accident, nor did he magically climb the corporate ladder to become the vice president of Jax's massive global conglomerate without some serious, shadowy, and malicious backing. I have been analyzing his every move, his sudden intense interest in Jocelyn, and the incredibly convenient timing of Ethan Lovett fleeing town the second Hudson arrived. Could it be that Hudson is actually Jerry Jax's biological son? Think about the dark history here, guys. Jerry Jax has always been the ultimate black sheep of the family. He is an international terrorist, a wanted criminal, and a man who has caused unspeakable suffering in Port Charles. From the Metro Court hostage crisis to poisoning the town's water supply, Jerry has always harbored a deep, venomous resentment toward his brother's golden boy status and immense, legitimate wealth. Jerry spent his entire life trying to destroy or steal what Jax built from the ground up. It makes perfect, terrifying sense that Jerry would plant his own flesh and blood inside his brother's empire to systematically dismantle it from the inside out. Hudson is the ultimate Trojan horse in this family war. He has the polished charm, the smooth corporate vocabulary, and the ruthless, cold-blooded genetics of his father. This brings us to the most chilling part of this entire speculative theory. If Hudson is indeed Jerry's son, and they are working together in the shadows to orchestrate a hostile takeover of Jax's multi-billion-dollar empire, then where exactly is Jasper Jax? I do not believe for one single second that Jax is out leisurely sailing the world while a stranger tries to hand his life's work over to his young daughter. It looks like Jerry and Hudson have already eliminated the biggest obstacle in their path. I am predicting that Jax has already been murdered by his own brother and nephew. The sheer horror of this scenario cannot be overstated. They slaughtered him for his fortune, dumped his body, and now they are using his ghost to manipulate his only daughter. The psychological motive here is pure, unadulterated greed, mixed with a lifetime of toxic sibling rivalry. Jerry never wanted to just beat Jax in a boardroom. He wanted to completely erase him from existence and take everything that was rightfully his, right down to the last penny. And now, Hudson is walking the streets of Port Charles, wearing expensive suits, paid for by blood money, acting as the loyal right-hand man to a boss he secretly buried. And that leaves Jocelyn Jax as the unwitting, vulnerable pawn in this deadly game of corporate chess. Jocelyn thinks she is invincible right now. She is riding high on her new status as a WSB agent, believing she has all the training and instincts necessary to spot a threat from a mile away. But she is completely out of her depth here. She is used to dealing with mobsters and obvious villains, not the insidious psychological warfare of her own bloodline. Hudson offering Jocelyn the CEO position was not a gesture of faith or a desperate attempt to keep the company afloat in Jax's absence. It was a highly coordinated trap. It was a calculated move to set her up as the perfect, naive meat shield for their illegal operation. Even though Jocelyn proudly refused the CEO offer, claiming her fierce loyalty to her new WSB career and her desire to forge her own path, you guys know Hudson is not going to take no for an answer that easily. He has a massive ulterior motive for keeping her close and involved in the company's daily affairs. If Jocelyn is officially at the helm of the company, or even just acting as a highly visible board member, Hudson can pull the strings from the shadows. He can quietly drain the offshore accounts, transfer the liquid assets into Jerry's terrorist shell companies, and leave Jocelyn holding the bag to take the fall when the federal authorities eventually come knock. The tragedy is that she thinks she is dealing with a standard, overly ambitious corporate embezzler, completely unaware that she is hunting a predator who shares her own DNA. Now, let us factor the formidable Jack Brennan into this explosive equation. Brennan is a seasoned, hardened WSB operative, a man who has navigated the darkest, most treacherous corners of international espionage for decades. He knows a rat when he sees one, and his instincts regarding Hudson are going to be screaming on high alert. Jocelyn has made it abundantly clear that she does not want Brennan interfering in her personal life, her WSB career, or her family's business. She resents his presence and his connection to her mother. Because of this stubborn resistance, Brennan is going to do what he does best: investigate quietly, completely off the books, and deep in the shadows where Jocelyn cannot see him operating. Brennan will start pulling on the tiny, seemingly insignificant threads of Hudson's background. He will use his high-level WSB clearance to trace the offshore accounts, the dummy corporations, and the inevitable hidden connections to Jerry Jacks. Brennan has the resources to find out the undeniable truth about Jax's supposed sailing trip. He will realize that the GPS coordinates of Jax's yacht do not match the financial footprint or the satellite imagery, and he will slowly uncover the gruesome, heartbreaking reality of what Jerry and Hudson have done. But investigating a man like Jerry Jacks is like poking a sleeping dragon with a short stick. It is a guaranteed death wish if you are not prepared for the fire. This sets the stage for a massive, unavoidable collision, and we need to look at exactly how this will play out on our screens. Let us break this down into two distinct paths. Scenario A involves a slow, agonizing psychological thriller that tortures the audience for months. In this scenario, it looks like Hudson and Jerry manage to keep the illusion alive through sheer manipulation and charm. Hudson pivots his strategy after Jocelyn rejects the CEO offer. Perhaps he starts seducing her or manipulating her protective instincts regarding her father's legacy to slowly gain her absolute trust. He plays the charming, misunderstood executive who just wants to do right by Jax, while secretly feeding every piece of intelligence back to his father. In scenario A, Brennan plays a meticulous, frustrating game of cat and mouse. He gathers evidence piece by agonizing piece, knowing full well that if he goes to Jocelyn without undeniable, ironclad proof, she will reject him entirely and run straight to Hudson to warn him. The tension builds as Jocelyn gets deeper into Hudson's web, perhaps even signing legal documents that unknowingly sign away her entire inheritance and implicate her in international fraud. Brennan races against the clock to expose the Trojan horse before the trap snaps shut forever. This scenario implies a long-term emotional manipulation that will leave Jocelyn with a shattered trust so profound that she may never recover from the betrayal. But then we have scenario B, which, if you ask me, feels far more aligned with the brutal, high-stakes reality of this show's current writing style. In scenario B, Brennan's covert investigation moves too fast, and he gets far too close to the sun. He finds the smoking gun, the definitive, undeniable proof that Hudson is Jerry's son and that they murdered Jasper Jacks in cold blood. But Jerry Jacks is an international terrorist who does not leave loose ends, and Hudson is clearly cut from the exact same sociopathic cloth. Could it be that they figure out Brennan is onto them before Brennan can secure his own safety? This implies a violent, fatal confrontation that will shake Port Charles to its core. Brennan is incredibly tough, highly trained, and lethal, but going up against a desperate, cornered Jerry and a ruthless Hudson in a coordinated, surprise ambush is a death sentence for anyone. It looks like Brennan will be outgunned, outmaneuvered, and fatally wounded in a remote location where no one can hear the gunshots. The writers love a tragic hero, and Brennan sacrificing himself to uncover the truth about Jocelyn's family would be the ultimate, heartbreaking exit for his character. However, Brennan is not the type of man to die without a fight, nor is he the type to leave the people he cares about in the dark. In his final, bloody moments, knowing with absolute certainty that he is not going to make it out alive, Brennan would make one last, desperate, calculated move. He would use his encrypted WSB tech to bypass Jerry's signal jammers and transmit a Priority 1 file directly to Jocelyn's secure server. He would not just send a vague warning, he would send the ultimate, undeniable truth. I am predicting that Brennan's dying act will be sending Jocelyn the exact GPS coordinates of where Jerry and Hudson disposed of her father's body, along with the DNA proof of Hudson's true identity. Imagine the sheer devastation of that unforeseen fallout. Jocelyn, sitting alone in her room or at the WSB headquarters, decrypting a file from the man she constantly pushed away and insulted, only to discover that her beloved father is dead. Not missing, not sailing, but brutally murdered. And the man who has been smiling at her, offering her prestigious jobs, and standing confidently in her father's office is her own cousin, a cold-blooded killer working for her psychotic uncle. The psychological motive behind Brennan's final act would be to weaponize Jocelyn's grief, turning her from a naive, arrogant target into a lethal WSB agent with a personal vendetta that will shake the earth. Let us not forget how Carly Spencer is going to react to this apocalyptic revelation. Carly has spent her entire life trying to protect Jocelyn from the violence of the mob and the dangers of the world. When she finds out that Jerry Jacks, the man who has tormented her and her loved ones for decades, has orchestrated the murder of her ex-husband and is now actively hunting her daughter, Carly is going to go on a rampage that will make her past vendettas look like child's play. Carly will blame herself for not seeing through Hudson's disguise, and she will undoubtedly blame the WSB for failing to protect Brennan and Jack. The unforeseen fallout will ripple through the entire Corinthos and Spencer families, pulling Sonny, Jason, and Michael into a full-blown, catastrophic war against Jerry's terrorist network. Furthermore, Jocelyn's role within the WSB will fundamentally shift. She joined the agency seeking adventure, a sense of purpose, and a way to step out of the shadows of her mob-connected family. But this revelation will transform her career into a dark, obsessive crusade for vengeance. The WSB head, Z, will likely try to pull her off the case, citing her massive conflict of interest and her emotional instability following the discovery of her father's murder. But you guys know Jocelyn. She has Carly's stubbornness and Jax's relentless drive. She will go rogue. She will use every piece of training she has acquired to hunt down Hudson and Jerry, completely disregarding the rules, the law, and her own personal safety. This is where the true tragedy of the storyline lies. Jerry Jacks will have succeeded in not only destroying his brother, but in fundamentally corrupting his brother's daughter. By forcing Jocelyn into a corner where she has to become a killer to survive and avenge her family, Jerry wins the psychological war. He proves that the Jacks bloodline is tainted, no matter how legitimate Jacks tried to make it. It implies that Jocelyn will cross a line she can never uncross, forever altering her moral compass. Hudson, acting as the dark mirror to Jocelyn, will push her to her absolute limits, taunting her with the memories of her father and the ease with which they dismantled his empire. Ultimately, this dangerous stalemate cannot last forever. The clock is ticking, and the bomb is primed to detonate. Whether it happens through a slow, agonizing realization in Scenario A, or a violent, bloody unmasking in Scenario B, the truth about Hudson and Jerry is going to come out. The only question left is who will be left standing in the rubble when the smoke finally clears. Will Jocelyn be able to outsmart the very men who orchestrated the perfect murder, or will she become the final victim in Jerry Jax's lifelong quest to eradicate his brother's legacy? If you ask me, we are in for a devastating ride, and you better brace yourselves for a level of shattered trust that this show has not delivered in a very long time.